Hello everyone. I want to talk about finding Gluebook fodder in your mailbox. We all get junk mail. I get tons of junk mail, and there is so much that you can find in your mailbox that you can use for Gluebooks. So I'm here to give you some ideas. And of course, the most used idea is the postage stamps. I love stamps. The postage stamps, I love the postmarks on the envelopes. They are little tiny works of art, and they look really cool in glue books. Whenever I find a postage stamp, I always tear it off the envelope and throw it in my postage stamp jar, and I pull some out when I'm doing glue books because I like the looks of them. They are really fun. These are some old ones, and they are some international ones, I think, but I've got all kinds of postage stamps that I use in everything. I like them a lot. And the second most used, most people know that when you're opening up your junk mail and getting those credit card offers, or even getting your bills, they often come in envelopes with a security pattern on them so that you can't see through them. And they're all different. They're different colors and they're different shapes. And these are absolutely perfect for using in glue books. I open every single piece of junk mail just in case there's an envelope inside I can use, or there's other things. And then I just rip up the envelopes so that they're little pieces ready to glue when I want them, and I've got a good variety. These are really neutral. They go with everything, so they're really good to have. So we're talking about junk mail, and we all get those flyers. They're newspaper usually, and they're not really that exciting. But if you look, sometimes you can find something kind of interesting, maybe something with a cool little pattern or color or something that you can use little bits of. So I'm just going to rip off the top there, and I've got some strawberries that I can glue in. Here's a little bit of green cabbage. You really can't tell what it is, but it's a nice light color. It will really go really well. I don't know what these are. Oh, they're lettuce. But if I just tear away some of it, maybe those numbers, I've just got a good little piece there, and I will use those in glue books. And sometimes the numbers are really large. I like a lot of numbers, so I'll go through and just pick out little bits of that. Here's some numbers. Let's get those numbers. I like the looks of numbers in my glue books, so that'll be a good one to use. And maybe even this, just for some text, would be good too. It's usable, definitely usable. There's a 10, so let me rip that out, and I will use that in something. Throw that away. This one doesn't have a whole lot of anything. That's kind of different, so I would probably take some of that, kind of rip it randomly so you can't tell exactly what it is. And you'll probably glue some stuff over it, but it's a nice light color. Here's another flyer. These cigar bands, and the numbers, the large text. I like those. Here's some tobacco leaves. The leaves are kind of cool. The circle's kind of cool. Let me just rip that randomly. So it's an interesting shape. I probably will use that. I will use the numbers. Kind of rip those to shreds, but they're still usable. They'll be interesting. Perfect is boring. And these cigar bands too. Let me just tear them out. You can cut them out if you feel better about cutting them, but I like to tear because I never know what I'm going to get. It's a nice random something, and that's probably too large, so I'd probably rip it up into little bits so that I have a few little bits there to put into a glue book. And here is just, it's a magazine type thing, and sometimes I find little images. Here's a little tree. Logos are good. Here's some windows that are interesting. So that's kind of cool. Maybe not the red background there, but that's a cool little window. So I would probably use some of that. Anything else interesting? Here's a foot that I might use. Here's a little logo that's interesting. Let's see here. Vacuums. Here's a little frog. He's pretty cool. I'll save him. Some grandfather clocks, some coins, some watches, some numbers, some large text. I like large text like this. Not necessarily for the words, but just as background bits. Well, you can read that word, but I like to put text in backgrounds where you can't read it. It does add some interest. It gives you a little bit of something more to glue in. So I would use those. I'll probably tear out those. Here's I missed a target. Wishing is a great word. I probably keep that word too. But it's interesting. You can find here some little fireworks and a Happy New Year hat. That's pretty cool. Look at this guy. He's interesting. I might fussy cut him out. Made. Your little house. There's quite a few little bits in here. You just have to look at the details of things to find a little strawberry, little tiny bear head, some trucks. You just have to look at details. So I talked about envelopes. And this one caught my eye. It is one of those really shiny ones. I wouldn't necessarily, it's really dark and it's metallic. I might use a paper punch and paper punch some butterflies out of this, or some frogs, or I have a bunch of punches, but I like the paper and I like that it's different. So I might just use some of that for something like that. This is, of course, from Target. It's my bill. I love the little circles. I always try to keep that part of the envelope when that Target bill comes in. I just like the way it looks, and it is, pretty fun just to glue in. It's interesting. So I open up all my junk mail because sometimes on the inside you can find logos or decorations on the page. There's the Geico lizard guy, the gecko. But here's some houses that would be really cool to use. Sometimes you find designs on the page, little logos or whatever, and I always save those kinds of things. Here's some arrows, fold, crease, and tear off sides along dotted lines. I like arrows. I like the simple little bits like that, and those are really good in glue books. And so some of this is undersides of checks maybe, or here's a border to something that I liked. Don't even know what that is, but it's a great pattern. So I always open up my junk mail just to find this kind of thing inside. It's a good neutral kind of color. A lot of things will go with it. It's a nice pattern. So you can, it's interesting. It adds some interest. So I keep all of that stuff and tear it up into little bits to use, maybe tear off the white bits. And I do that ahead of time before I'm ready to, sometimes they're thick and I can take off a layer, but I like to get them ready to glue. So all I have to do when I'm sitting down to glue is grab a bunch of stuff that catches my eye and just glue it down. I don't have to worry about fussy cutting or tearing things up. Better. It's just ready to glue down. So that's what I do ahead of time. So another thing in your mailbox would be letters, greeting cards, that kind of thing. I love handwriting, so if someone sends you letters or notes or whatever, I always keep the handwriting. This one came off of a greeting card. I just ripped off the cardstock part of it so that it was thinner to read. I will tear that up into little bits to glue down because I love the looks of that. Any kind of writing at all, on cards or in letters or even on envelopes. Maybe somebody wrote the address, all that stuff. So greeting cards, I like the cards. Sometimes they have really cool little images that can be used, or the envelopes have little images on them. Thank you notes and stationery and that kind of thing sometimes has patterns on them as well. Here's another envelope that's got a pattern to it. This was part of a greeting card. I just really liked the pattern, and so it was a border around the card, so I just ripped it, and I will use that little bit in my glue books because I like the looks of it. And then take a look at your boxes too. You can find interesting patterns on boxes. This one came off a box. This one came off a box. I just rip off the paper. This was a tape. It looked like eyes to me, so I collected that. But it's just a cool little pattern that I can put into a glue box. So when things like that come on this cardboard, it's really, really thick stuff. So I try just to peel off the first layer with the pattern on it. And it always rips, and that's okay because then it gives me a strange, funny little piece that's different. So I just rip off the paper so I can glue it so it's thin enough to glue. So now I've got a funny little piece of that pattern to glue down somewhere. And I will save the entire bit and use it in different projects, all the different pieces, because I like the looks of it. And I'll save all of it. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to get off just the first layer, but with practice you'll get there. I like really thin, so I work at it a while until I get it thin enough that I like it. So I get it off the cardboard first. And then that's still pretty thick, so I try to separate. My thumbnail is gone. So I try to separate the paper itself. Yeah, my thumbnails, both of them are gone, gone, gone. So just takes a little bit of practice and work to get the layers of the paper separated. And if you don't mind a thick piece of paper, then you can glue on. You don't have to separate it at all. I mean, that is gluable just as it is. So, and that is it. So pay attention to what you find in your mailbox. You can find treasures that you can glue. Instead of throwing all that stupid junk mail away in the garbage, you can actually glue it into your glue books for some unique and different kinds of things, so that you don't always have the exact same stuff. Magic. I might even save that word, magic. So, handwriting, postage stamps, the security envelope patterns, greeting cards, and envelopes, and the junk mail advertisements, whatever you can find in your box. There's a lot to be found there. Take a good look. Take your time when you're looking the first time, and you'll be surprised at how much you can actually find. So I hope this helps a little bit. I wish you all luck finding some really interesting little bits in your mailbox. Thanks for watching.